At any moment, the world will witness a full-blown conflict between East and West. Important region for both Eastern and Western, Ukraine. The West, through Ukraine, wants to strike a heavy blow at Russia. And Russia sees the occupation of Ukraine as the way to overcome these threats. A difficult game for all the countries involved in this affair. Ukraine is an Eastern European country bordered by Russia to the east, Belarus to the north, Poland, Slovakia and Hungary to the south, Romania and Moldova to the southwest, and the Black Sea is located to the south. The capital of Ukraine is the city of Kiev. With an area of 603,550 square kilometers, Ukraine is the 44th largest country in the world, and the second largest country in Europe after Russia. Ukraine is divided into 24 provinces and 490 parts. It was ruled by Moscow, and with the collapse of the Soviet Union, it was able to gain independence. The Ukrainian government is a NATO ally but does not have a formal NATO membership. The Ukrainian government was keen to join the EU, but due to corruption and the weak economy, it made it impossible for Ukraine to join the EU. NATO member states also refused to join Ukraine for fear of escalating tensions with Russia. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Russian government's relationship with Ukraine has always been tense. Natural gas played an important role in the disputes between Russia and Ukraine. The Russian gas pipeline network passed through Ukraine and connected to Europe, supplying a quarter of Europe's total gas. In 2005, Russia accused Ukraine of failing to pay for gas and stealing gas transited to Europe. It caused a great deal of controversy and legal strife until Russia cut off gas supplies to Ukraine altogether on January 1, 2006, reducing gas supplies to parts of Europe. Russia and Germany have sought to reduce dependence on land routes through Ukraine, Belarus, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic by launching the Nord Stream pipeline across the Baltic Sea. The second phase of this gas supply network was called Rolling Stream 2. The United States has been a staunch opponent of the pipeline, both under Trump and now. From the US point of view, this pipeline makes Europe vulnerable to Russia. The political atmosphere in Ukraine is divided between two thoughts. One Westernists, two Orientalists. Westernists in the country are looking for the resources of the United States and its allies in the country, and the Orientalists also want to subjugate the country to Russia. Pro-Western groups ousted President Viktor Yanukovych during the 2014 revolution and created the government in Ukraine according to the wishes of the West. In response, Russian forces initially occupied government buildings and military bases at the peninsula's airports in the form of masked and armed soldiers. Then 7,000 troops entered the peninsula and practically took control of the area. The next day, the number of Russian troops increased to 15,000. Russian officials said the reason for the military intervention was to protect the rights of Russian-speaking and Russian-speaking citizens of eastern Ukraine. Some Western countries, including the United States, have called the incident the Russian military occupation of Crimea. On Tuesday, March 18, 2014, the then President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, signed a resolution of the Russian parliament on the annexation of the Crimean Peninsula to the territory of this country, and thus, and so, this decree was formalized in terms of Russian law. Following the 2014 coup in Ukraine, control of the country fell to pro-US groups backed by Western groups. The pro-Western Ukrainian government severely repressed political opposition and pro-Russian groups, and in some cases pro-Russian groups were massacred by the government. Border security has been a major Russian concern throughout history. With eastern and northern Russia partially protected by the natural borders of the North Pacific and Arctic Ocean, but its main concern for the South, especially the West, remains the biggest challenge. This country is considered. Russian-backed insurgents have been fighting government forces in various parts of Ukraine since 2014. But tensions between the rebels and the Ukrainian government plunged Russia back into the fray. The Russian president expressed concern about discrimination against Russians in eastern Ukraine and the Donbas region, likening the situation to genocide. More than 90,000 Russian troops have been stationed near the Ukrainian border, further exacerbating tensions between the United States and Russia. Russian forces are stationed near Donbas. Russia accuses the West and the United States of arming Ukrainian forces in an attempt to destabilize and challenge Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin has used the credible threat of military action to show that Russia is serious about defending its red line in Ukraine. Washington has warned its allies and the Kremlin that it will face tough sanctions if it attacks its neighbor. The West is in fact trying to increase tensions between Russia and Ukraine as much as possible. With the scenario of the division of Ukraine into two parts, East and West. The West is also interested in landing Moscow on Ukrainian soil by waging a full-scale war, so trapping Russia would be an ideal scenario for the West. Russia's conflict with Ukraine could be a factor in uniting the Western camp. Following the withdrawal of NATO troops from Afghanistan, NATO's philosophy of existence has been called into question, and the United States will no longer be able to meet the EU's financial obligations under this military alliance. If war breaks out, Euro-Atlantic security will be a priority, and NATO members will ignore internal divisions and act in a single line that the United States can use to put pressure on Russia. According to the International Institute for Strategic Studies, the Russian armed forces has 900,000 active personnel. While this figure for Ukraine is 200,000 people, Russia's real achievement is that it already has proxy forces in the separatist war in eastern Ukraine, allowing it to communicate with them and expand the area it already controls. How ready is Ukraine to defend itself? Ukraine has become much stronger militarily than in 2014. It has advanced anti-tank missiles provided by Washington to Ukraine. U.S. intelligence for Ukraine in the Russian war will be one of the great achievements after the occupation of Crimea. The West has boycotted Russia, and further painful action is needed if it attacks again. A blockade of Russian gas pumping through the new Nord Stream 2 pipeline with Germany is known to hit the Russian economy hard. Today, the Ukrainian army benefits from modern facilities such as offensive winds with reactors and combat training. The emergence of a pro-Western government and the European Union's support for the Ukrainian government has boosted Ukrainian President Zelensky's confidence. With Russia reluctant to launch a military strike against Ukraine and sending Russian troops to the border with Ukraine to dissuade Zelensky's government from execution of the decision to occupy Donbas. In case of military invasion of the Ukrainian army in Donbas, Russia will defend them immediately, and Russia will most likely never start a war on Ukraine's borders. But the Cold War will continue against the interests of secession. Don't forget to subscribe my YouTube channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out when I upload another video.